Hello everyone, and welcome to Divine Mother Healing Temple Tuesdays. So sorry I'm running a little bit late. I just had an amazing breakthrough session with a client that I've been working with for some time, and and then I was on the phone with a friend that Jesus asked me to reach out to collaborate with, and so we just got talking about our offerings. And so what's really coming through today, with just like the culmination of everything that I've been witnessing within the collective, is to speak about what we're experiencing in this current deconstruction of this world order. And first off, I would just like to say that if you are feeling disconnected from spirit, like if you have trouble connecting in meditation, you have disconnected yourself from your inner child. And so when we've disconnected ourselves from our inner child, we can't hear the voice of God. We can't hear spirit. We can't hear how we're being directed. And over time, we have, even though as women, we've had rights for, I don't even know, like 50 years or something, like not very long. We still haven't gotten over that feeling within our like bone marrow of like what it felt like when we didn't have rights. Even if you weren't alive and you don't believe in reincarnation or past lives, it still exists within your DNA. It exists within your ancestry. So even if you didn't personally experience it, it's just like rape trauma. It exists in all of our bodies, no matter if you've been raped or not. And when you don't know that, and somebody grabs your arm and it triggers a predisposition that existed within your grandmother, and it brings up all this rape trauma, and you have nowhere to put it in your life, it can be very confusing. It can not make sense on why you're acting and responding in the way in which you are. And so there's been this overcompensation on the planet in the feminine energy. And I'm just going to speak from like the vision I got earlier was to speak to you guys from my human perspective before we get started, before I allow Jesus to use my mouth, because I chose to walk every point of polarity to bring a different perspective. And so I know that these are touchy subjects and they're supposed to trigger you. And when you get triggered and you pull the wool over your eyes and you just like go in the other direction and you make it about the person that's triggering you, you're choosing to hold on to the trauma. You're choosing to stay in the darkness. You're choosing to perpetuate the problems. And I guess, to each his own. But if you're on the path of healing and awakening, then there needs to be a different experience with being triggered. It's like, I know that it doesn't feel great, but when something makes you feel unsafe and it triggers this fighting instinct or this attacking energy, you're defending yourself against love. And as the feminine embodiment, most men walking around that aren't connected to the feminine energy, they don't understand what it's like to be pretty much always unsafe. We all are always at the disadvantage of being, smaller or not as strong. And even if we take self-defense classes, we are just, quote unquote, the weaker species. And so we are healing collectively from this power over others. And the women, or the feminine embodiment, the feminine, I should say, consciousness, has overcompensated in other ways. And so, I've seen women completely take men's choices away, getting pregnant, not even leaving room for a man to have an option of keeping the child, and just taking their rights away and going to get an abortion. I, have never agreed with us using abortion or Plan B or things of that nature for birth control. But I also have been in the flip side of experiencing being raped by someone I wouldn't have a child with, and waiting to see if I was pregnant, and knowing that if I was, I would have gotten an abortion. Because you have to understand that when you bring a child into this world out of trauma, that child is destined to only experience that type of karmic lessons, because it's teaching you to take your power back, to re-own that part of you that you feel like you've lost. And I also understand how souls choose us for specific reasons. Just like I got pregnant the month before I got pregnant with Megan. I was told I was never going to have children. I didn't even have a menstrual cycle until the end of October 2020. So just a couple of years ago. And so because I didn't have a menstrual cycle, doctors said I didn't produce eggs, therefore I would never have a child. And that to me devastated me. And I lived from that paradigm for a few years until I met a woman that actually called me to Sedona. And she said, you don't abide by the laws of this earth, or this universe for that matter. Why on earth would you believe anything a doctor told you? If you want to have a child, you will have a child. And therefore I did within a couple of months of that conversation, actually. I got pregnant. But first, my son came through. And my son came through to prepare my body, to prepare it for my daughter. And his soul let me know that. And so, but although in the moment when you lose a child, it never feels great. It was traumatic. It was a very painful experience. And it made me give up trying to get pregnant, because we were trying to get pregnant. And all of that trying, put a lot of stress on the body. And so the moment that I gave it up and was like, all right, I guess I'm just never going to have a kid, we got pregnant. And so what I'm trying to explain is, when you're looking at trying to find the victim or the bad guy, you're always going to see with distorted lenses. If you see it like a woman is the bad guy for desiring to have say over what happens to her body, how is that helpful? Do you understand that women can have things like ectopic pregnancies that could kill them if they don't have an abortion? And yes, I understand that there needs to be lines drawn, because we've just gotten so far away from having a natural moral compass. And that isn't to say that it's any fault of anyone's. It's just, there's been missing a definite archetype on the planet, like a mother-father archetype. And we've become so disconnected, and children grow up without the love and nurturing that they need. And so if you think about it, like the mother is the horrible person and she shouldn't have the right to decide what happens to her body, or that the child is the victim, or, you know, whatever the case may be, understand that no matter, like I've seen it, I've had one of my best friends in 7th grade, she got pregnant and her mom came to me and begged me, because I was older and she looked up to me, to talk her into getting an abortion. And that was an impossible thing for me to sit with, especially so young. But when I really looked over, like, is she ready to be a mother? Absolutely not. She was still a baby herself. And she was on a track to become a pharmacist, and I could see that, you know, she would be working her ass off for the rest of her life, never having a childhood, and blaming that child for why she didn't have a childhood. And that's not right to a child. We shouldn't be bringing children into this world if we can't give them everything that they need from us. So, I talked her into getting an abortion, and she still hasn't had a child to this day. And she still parties like she's a child, so thank God she didn't have that child. You know, but sometimes it takes things like getting pregnant for us to wake up and realize, like, we can't just keep playing with things. Like, yeah, so if you can't hold both points of polarity and the truth in God, then you have work to do, and you really shouldn't be sharing your perspective until you can hold all three. Really, because you're just fighting to defend against love. You're fighting, you know, like, it doesn't get us anywhere. So, if you have any respect for me at all, then you'll just hear me out when I'm saying, like, what's happening in the world, it isn't right. But if you look at it from a higher perspective of, like, if what, I don't even know what the level of however it is, but if our entire nation isn't governing that every state can have an abortion, and now it's going state by state, well, this is going to make it very clear for you to decide if that's the right state for you to be living in. Because just like somebody a couple of months ago, when I was saying I was looking for a new place to live, somebody said that I should move to Texas, and I was like, that is so far away from any choice that I would ever choose, because I know where Texas is going. And, you know, it's to each his own. I know that Texas is going to break free from the United States and become its own thing. And the way in which they're going is so far away from any of my beliefs. And so if you like that, like, if you are like, absolutely not, we should all have guns and abortion should be, you know, completely illegal. If that's your belief, then move to Texas. If it's so far away from your belief, then maybe you shouldn't be living in that state. Because this is what it's teaching us. Like, we've been so living in such a disharmonic frequency from our harmony, from our synergy, like, from what's right for us. Because it's just like me living in Montana. I love Montana during the summer. It is an amazing place to visit. It will always have a deep place in my heart, and one day I will have a house there, but I won't live there. or like all the time. I don't like the snow. It makes me angry. Like I don't like the snow. I just don't. It's like I don't see any point in snow. And I don't like being cold. So that doesn't make sense for me to live in a place like that. But my excuse was that I couldn't leave my daughter. And so, my daughter made it so that we moved to Arizona. So if I was still living there, it would be not in alignment with what was right for me. And so you guys, you have to look at this stuff, because we've been living from this space of like telling ourselves that we have to do things that we really don't have to do. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to keep playing out these narratives and living in this yeah. I'm just getting, my attention's being brought to the food shortages that are taking place on the planet and that will continue. So if you look at like the war in Ukraine and how we get so much of our like bread and things of that nature from overseas, well, this is telling us, for one, that we shouldn't be having a war, but what can we control? It's telling us that we shouldn't be outsourcing so much. We need to start locally growing our own food. It's asking us to be more conscious. So if you think about the whole thing with like COVID and those vaccine cards or whatever, and that making it so people weren't going to be able to go into the stores, and like that whole potential, that was pushing us to grow our own food. Now, I know that if I have to grow my own food, I'm going to starve. So like I definitely need a community of people and somebody that like knows how to do those things, because like I don't. And I've tried. But we all have different roles, you know what I'm saying? And so this is just, we're going through the back door to come back together. And so it may feel like really crazy and unsafe at this time, but just remember, like when you're fighting for something but you can't hold the opposite perspective because you don't even understand it, like if you are saying that because I can hold both perspectives that it's not divine, no, judgment is not divine. Okay? So understand that, for one, especially if you are not a woman, you really have no right to have an opinion on whether a woman has rights to her own body. You just don't. So it's time for us all to have compassion for one another and to be able to hold each other's perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but you can have respect and honor of one another. Yeah, and so there's going to be a migration that happens. And so I invite you all to really drop in and listen to, well, it depends on where you're at in your journey. So like if you're having trouble getting guidance, then there's a need for you to reintegrate your inner child. So if you can just look over the course of your life, you can tune into that part of you that was like carefree and, just an innocent child, right? The child that didn't care if it was raining outside. If they wanted to go dance and play out in the rain, they were going to do that. Like, invite that child back. Where did you separate yourself from that child? What happened? Understand that there's a part of you that's still like trapped at that age. And that means that that part of your brain has never matured past that age of whatever age that was. So there's a need to reintegrate, and also understand that as you're doing that, you need to give space for that child to mature. And when you allow yourself to nurture, like, understand, like, if your body's like, if you have a lot of body pain, that's suppressed anger. And what causes suppressed anger? When we aren't listening to our inner child screaming. And so when you start to listen to that inner child, start to play with that inner child, start to take care of that inner child, your body's going to stop screaming at you. What was that? What else? Yeah. Oh, there's just like this this energy that I witnessed, and maybe some of you guys heard my video that I made last night from 4th of July. But we were guided to go to this festival, and we got there, and like the energy was just like very vicious, like for one, people were just it's hard to explain, but like I can see when people are not in their bodies, like when you're driving in Phoenix and everybody's consciousness is like floating above the cars. They're like so dangerous. Oh my God. And so people were just like running into each other, and just like this, I walked in front of this woman, and she like barked at me. Like it was really a very interesting energy. And I could just feel that the parents have been, the adults, or I should say, have been like on this like autopilot for some time now, and living from a state of survival. And it's just their system is completely taxed out, and the only like state they have is this very like primal, instinctual fight flight type of energy. And everyone's just very disconnected from each other, because when you're in that state, you have no access to your heart. You have no access to attuning to what somebody else needs from you. And so the children, like I walked past this one family, and the family was like talking and laughing, and the child was like laying on the ground hurt and crying. And I'm just like, what is happening? So I like get down on the ground with the child, and I'm like picking them up and making sure that they're okay. And like the parents they weren't even aware of like anything. And so then what I witnessed at the end of the night was there was like a fight that broke out, and the man that was like instigating it, I saw him as like a 13-year-old child who didn't have a father, who was rebelling because he desired attention, and he really needed the father aspect to step up and tell him to knock it off. But the woman, it was like a microcosm of like what's happening on, a global scale. And the woman felt unsafe and felt like this man was trying to take her rights away, and like by charging at her, and she's just like freaking out. And so like in context, like nothing about it was right, but like the reaction was just so clear to me of like how everything is playing out. And so I would just invite you all to be mindful of how this is playing out in your own life. And the sooner that we can bring ourselves to a state of balance and harmony, and look at when these triggers are coming up and go into them and heal them, and have, you know, tools on your tool belt so that you can take yourself into a healing process, so that you're not relying on people outside of you. And that's why I was guided to create the Divine Light and Akasha Healing Academy, so that I would give you guys all of the tools that I have, so that you can go and heal yourself. But you guys have to actually desire to do that. Yeah. And so just one other thing is, if you guys, I was also guided to do a 3-day devotional weekend for Mary Magdalene's Ascension, which is July 22nd. And that will be, so I've been guided to gather the Sisterhood of the Rose, because we're all, for 1 year, all connected to the Mother Consciousness. And so there's so many of you that are connected to me, and you guys experience like going through the same things that I go through at the same times. And if you're wondering why that is, it's just because we're all walking together, even if we're not conscious of it. And it's our roles on this planet to anchor the Mother's love. And so it's good for us all to gather and to harmonize that frequency, so that we are anchoring and providing the Mother's love on the planet. We are, that's why we used to have high priestesses and temples and places where we gather, so that we could support one another. No one's expected to feel like they need to be an island unto themselves, or that they need to provide all of their needs for themselves. No, we are a collective tribe that needs to come back together. And so if you guys are interested in joining me for that, the link is on the community tab. If you go to the posts over there, and I am offering $200 off until the 7th at midnight. So use promo code EARLYBIRD. I think that's it, and we can get into the healing if you guys are ready for that. Okay. Yeah, there's like a resistance of emotions here with this collective group that I'm feeling. It's like there's you've made feeling your emotions as bad, unless they're happy, positive, like what's it called, like I can't think of words, like the excited emotions, like the up, and so there's a disconnect from anything that's like weighing on your heart, or feeling sadness, even tuning into what's going on in the world. There's a separation of like, it doesn't belong to me, so I'll put it over there. And so, yeah, just look at that if that's you. And let's just provide some safety for all of our emotions. Yeah, there's like a lot of tension in the face. And so if you can feel that, like I feel that you get like lockjaw when you are feeling, I can't identify exactly what emotion this is. It's just like anything that's like going this way, like sadness, like it's like, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to focus over here, and it's over here, and that's taxing your nervous system, because you're running away from what is here. It's like, so I'm going to the child part of you, and it feels like, so it's stuck in the throat, so release that. So it's like, I'm seeing you, and something happened, and you're like crying, you're with a group of kids, and you're crying, something happened, you fell down, you got hurt, and they're all making fun of you, and no one's helping you, and then they left you. And so you made like getting hurt or feeling sadness or crying mean that you're going to be disconnected from the group. And so you tried to cut yourself, like I'm seeing like you have a younger sibling, but this can also represent that you just took your inner child and you pushed it away. So like if you saw your younger sibling, you were like, you can't play with us, and you like identified with this other part of you that you put on as a mask and said that this is who I am. And so let's just open up space to like hold and call back that part of you. So I'm just providing safety for even the part of you that is resistant to even looking at that part. And we're just going to call in Mother, Father, God to be here with us now, creating a sacred container for this healing. Oh, it's really stuck in the neck too. Calling in Archangel Michael to clear all of the discordant energies from my embodiment. Calling in Jesus Christ to speak through me and lead this process. He said, I'll hold space, but you speak. Okay. Surrendering this session to God for the highest and best and greatest of all good. And I would just like to invite us all to close our eyes and allow for our ego to allow for your ego to sit on your shoulder instead of making it go outside of you. Allow it to be a conscious observer. And we're going to take 10 deep breaths in the nose and out the mouth as hard as you can, and holding it for as long as you can on the 10th breath. In the nose, out the mouth. 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 In the nose. And hold. And out the mouth. And we're just going to clear all of our centers. So seeing red, focusing on your root and blowing out of your root all of the discord energies. Blowing out the sacral, seeing orange. Blowing out all of that discordant energy. And out the solar, seeing yellow. And taking off all of the walls around our heart, seeing green or pink. I'm feeling some pain in the heart. Just allow that to be released. And bring yourself back to center. And seeing blue, clearing the throat. clearing the third eye, seeing indigo. Very good. Now clearing the crown, seeing purple. And bringing in your soul star chakra, seeing bright white light that is coming in through your crown, down through every single cell of your body. Very good. Now see a pathway lined with trees, and at the end of the pathway there's a portal. This portal is going to take you to a memory. And as you're walking down this pathway lined with trees, just feeling the ground beneath your feet and looking at what kind of trees these are. And then seeing this portal open up in front of you. And what does this portal look like? When you touch it, what does it feel like? Is it like water or like a hologram? Now I invite you to step through this portal, and on the other side, this scene is going to bring you back to a time in your childhood. And allow this time to come to you. It's filling up like on a movie screen. What is this scene telling you? We're inviting back the memory of a time where you left a part of yourself. What was happening? What emotion were you feeling? Were you feeling unsafe or ashamed or rejected, denied? Allow this memory to fill up. Maybe it was shock. Maybe you were blamed for something. And if you're having trouble connecting with this, listen to your body. Where's your body starting to light up? It will feel like tingles or tightness or pain. If you're feeling a lot of weight and tension on your shoulders, this comes from something happening in your childhood where you were left to carry the weight of your parents' burdens, and something traumatic happened. And even if you weren't outwardly blamed by others, you blamed yourself. And since then, you've been carrying this weight of this false sense of security of, if I just do X, Y, and Z and take care of everything, or if I just take care of everything, then this bad thing won't happen again, and I can prove to everyone that I'm worthy. Or you go the other route of not even trying, because if I'm just a screw up, then no one will ever count on me or depend on me to do anything, and then I can't disappoint anyone. So see, sense, or feel this part that you left. Identify what emotion it was, or what the event was that triggered you fracturing yourself off from this part of you. See how every fight that you've gotten in since this day has been you fighting with this part of yourself. And whether that was fighting to make what happened not happen, and so maybe you recreated it. Maybe you had a family so that you could project all of your stuff onto one child to make them better than the other, so that you could make this traumatic event not happen. Just look at how powerless we are to getting the outside to fix the inside. And so I invite you to bring in the adult aspect of self and bring it into this memory. It's 333. Introduce yourself to this child and freeze this memory. Ask this child what they need from you. So this child may need you to go defend it, or talk to the adults in this situation. Or this child could just simply need something from you. See, I'm just going to each of your inner children, and listening to each of them. And this is why you have felt unlovable. This is why you've hated yourself. And so I just desire for you to see that beautiful baby, that beautiful child that you are, and love them. Love them the way the Divine Mother loves them. I know some of us have a hard time even looking at pictures of ourselves from childhood without like cringing. So, you know, if you could just think about something that you love, and that maybe it's animals, and to start integrating that love that you have for animals into that child aspect of yourself. And sometimes it helps to go to a younger memory. You know, like it's kind of hard to see a newborn baby as anything but lovable and innocent and perfect. So I invite you all to listen to what that child needs from you, and to start to integrate that child into your daily life. Allow it to have a voice. And so if you had a nickname as a child, or if you want to give yourself one now, you can, you know, speak to that part of yourself. And for this next week, I invite you all to consciously ask your inner child what it desires, instead of just making a decision. Instead of just interesting. I'm hearing, instead of just going directly to God, first ask what, oh yes, because you can't go to God unless you go to the child. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because you can't hear God unless you are integrated with your inner child. Ew. So you have to go to the child first. So I invite you all to start tuning in to what the child wants. Allow that child to play. What does it want to do? Think about all of the things that you tell yourself, like, oh, I didn't get to do that when I was younger because my parents didn't have this, or da 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 da. What's your excuse now? You get to give yourself your childhood. You're an adult now. You get to reparent your child. And who better to parent your inner child than you? You will be the best parent that child has ever even imagined. So now, we are going to go back to our garden space that we go pretty much weekly. But if you guys are new here, We're going to walk back through that portal, and on the other side of that portal is going to be your Garden of Eden. And this is your private healing sanctuary that only you hold the key to, which is inside of your heart space. And so open up this door and go into your beautiful Garden of Eden. We are going to call in Saint Germain with the violet flame to assist us. And we're calling in your inner child and yourself now, all fractured aspects of the inner child that maybe have separated from any point in time, to come back to this moment. And then any person that's connected to that initial trauma. So parents, brothers, sisters, friends, allow their higher selves to all come into this room. And so, starting with the person who you feel that you have the most, like you're carrying the most burdens in regards to. So like, if you have a real hard time with sitting with your heart space and your emotions, and like if your go-to is more positive emotions, or like adrenaline and stuff like that, then you're more connected to like the masculine. And so you're disconnected from the mother. You're disconnected from really sitting in your emotions and like feeling what your emotions are telling you. And so what was the relationship like with your own mother? Did she hold space for you in all of your many facets? Did she demonize some of your behaviors over others? Or were her emotions too big that you weren't allowed to have your own? So see how her dysfunctions were passed down to you, and then you started to fracture yourself off from the parts of self that didn't get you loved or nurtured by your mother. So just feeling in any resistance you have towards your mother. And then there can be an overcompensation with like the Divine Mother's emotions. So like animals, there can be an overcompensation, like I love animals but I hate my mom. Or my mother never gave me the love and attention I needed, so I have a bunch of animals to fill that void. So just feel inside of you where you've been carrying burdens related to your mother. And then pull out these burdens out of your body. I just heard kidney stones. So remove those. You literally can just pull them out. Or you can allow me and I will help you. And then once you've pulled out these burdens, go to the higher self of your mother and show her that you've been carrying these burdens. Ooh, lots in the throat. So just release that in the throat. So fear of speaking your truth. Oof, I just heard, little girls are to be seen and not heard. Just allow that to be released. Oh, okay. And so then going to your mother and showing her the fractured aspects of all of your inner children that are standing there and all of these burdens that you've been carrying. And show her that you've been carrying all of these burdens in order to keep your connection with her. So I'm just going to channel what I'm hearing from some of your inner selves. I was attempting to make myself into what I thought that you wanted me to be, and it was never good enough. And so I broke myself into all of these mini parts, hoping that one of them would be what you wanted me to be. But it was never good enough. It was never what you wanted. And so today I come to you to show you that I've been carrying these burdens in these many parts in order to keep my connection with you, and it does not serve me or you. And so today I would like to free us from these karmic attachments and ancestral patterns, holding the vision and the knowing of the truth of who you are in Christ. Allowing us both to rise. And I'm hearing the mother apologizing as she was just doing what she was taught and what she thought she needed to do in order to make you strong enough to survive in this world. She was just trying to make you fit into this mold so that society would accept you, so that people would look at her like she was a good mother. Oh. And every time you didn't meet those expectations, it triggered shame within her that she could not look at, so she deflected it onto you. And she is taking responsibility for that today. And together, I invite you both to surrender these burdens into the beautiful violet flame, allowing it all to be dissolved and resolved. There's especially a lot in the stomach. So just allow that to be released. You don't have to carry this anymore. It doesn't belong to you. Just keep going, surrendering everything that does not serve you. Hugging your mother, feeling and I'm seeing like your inner children coming over and hugging your mother as well. Feeling what it's like to feel connected to her, feel supported by her, feeling safe by her, feeling loved by her. And feeling this beautiful pink orb of light that is now surrounding your embodiment. This orb of light that you take with you everywhere you walk. And inviting the mother, your mother, and the inner child to merge together as one and enter into your heart space. And then going over to look at your connection with the father aspect. Like, what's your connection to your mind, authority? Do you rebel against anybody trying to tell you anything? What was your relationship like with your father? Did you have a relationship with your father? Like, I grew up without a father. So when I hit about 13, I was begging for someone to just tell me no. I was begging for containment. And so look at what your relationship was like with your father. And so if there was an absence of a relationship with the father, then, you know, what did that create in your life? What type of walls and disharmonic frequencies with your mind? Like, is it all over the place? Do you have a hard time focusing? What about your connection with authority? Do you feel safe to allow someone to guide you? Or do you always feel that authorities are not ever going to be able to capitalize on your best interest? And so, looking at what that relationship is and the burdens that you've been carrying, I invite you to take out those burdens. If it's like the monkey mind, like always trying to to go back and forth and think about this and this and this. Oof, and then it goes into the throat. It's like you're trying to figure out all realms for safety, for containment. Keeps you running around, running away from your truth. Running away from the feminine aspect of truth. And so show your father all of these burdens that you've been carrying in order to keep your connection with him. And so some of us have taken on this like hero archetype for our fathers. And this can be because you witnessed your father rescue someone else and you always wanted him to rescue you, or your father was never there, so you created this godly like archetype to look up to. But meanwhile, you were waiting for that archetype to come rescue you. When it was really trying to show you that you had abandoned yourself. And you're really mad at him. Because you blamed him subconsciously for not being there to keep your mother safe, and then she took it out on you. Or if he was there, maybe he didn't feel like he was ever there. No matter what you did, you could never get his attention. So you never felt good enough to have his love. So show him that you've been carrying this burden. Because you're talking to his higher self, feel his remorse. And so I just hear your father saying that he is sorry that he couldn't hold space for the truth of who you were then, and that his actions and behaviors made you feel unsafe to be who you are, or made it feel that you were unworthy. Any perspectives that you made about yourself due to your father's behavior. Feel him taking responsibility for that. And acknowledge that this is why you've been running from this part of yourself, and that there's nothing that's ever been wrong with you. And see that awareness of a problem is a problem half solved. There's nothing to fear when we look at these things. And so invite him to pull out any burdens that he's been carrying in order to keep his connection with you. And so I see a long line of men, oh, there's a lot in the throat. So just allow that to be surrendered. Men that were not allowed to it's like they're not allowed to have their emotions unless it's anger. That's the only emotion that is acceptable. And so therefore, looking at you as a child, it felt so powerless to them because they didn't know how to connect to you any other way than to feel their emotions. And so they pushed you away. And like I can hear my father saying that he was afraid of love because he watched his mother and father go from being like so incredibly in love to getting a divorce, and that terrified him. And so when he fell in love with my mother, he was terrified of that love. And so he did many things in order to make sure that he always had something on the sidelines so that he was never left alone. And when he finally figured out that my mother was who he wanted to marry, it was too late. And when he came to the hospital to propose to her after I was born, my grandmother said it was her or him, and unless she wanted to raise me on food stamps and not have her support, then she better tell him goodbye. And so just like Romeo and Juliet in modern day, as I am completing that karmic cycle from that story that has been perpetuated for far too long, is not love. It's not divine love. That is toxic codependency and fearing love, pushing it away. And so, yeah, he's just apologizing for waiting too long and not coming to find me. Instead, just making it his excuse to continue to destroy his life and cry about the fact that he lost us to get a whole bunch more women pregnant. But he was in love with love. And he fell in love a lot. So he's just apologizing for that. And so, as you guys both are seeing all of these burdens, I invite you to surrender it into the beautiful violet flame. And then embracing your father. Allowing them to rise, to meet the truth of who they are in Christ. And then from the Father aspect of God, allowing for your Father to now become one with the Divine Father and bring His consciousness into your mind to integrate there. And then look at your inner child. Now, I'm seeing that some of us never grew up. So you've been still a child, that's okay, but you're a child that was missing the adult part of you. Therefore, there's a lot of situations in your life that didn't need to happen and don't need to perpetuate when you bring in the adult aspect of you to parent that inner child. Therefore, that child, as you're tapping into the 7-year-old version of yourself that doesn't have access to a fully developed prefrontal cortex that knows how to make decisions, there needs to be a mother-father figure that is going to keep that child safe. And so see if you've been living from that aspect, and maybe you're 13 and still rebelling against everything, to find yourself. But understand that just pushing things away does not develop a sense of self. See how you've had a fear of commitment, because any level of commitment makes you feel trapped, makes you feel controlled. And that in childhood did not feel safe. It did not feel safe to be contained by your birth parents. They were incapable of keeping you safe. And so see how all of your identifications that you have on the type of home that you grew up in, this is now what represents your definition of romantic love. And so if you're terrified of romantic love, or you don't have it, or it's all toxic, it comes from this. Also, your relationship to God. We project our identification of however our mother and father was in our lives, and we project that onto our feelings about God. And so if your parents were very strict and harsh and punished you for everything, and you couldn't get anything right, then you're going to feel like God is a judgmental God, which God is not. You're going to feel like you're going to feel afraid of your divinity. You're going to be more afraid of your light than your shadow. So removing all of those layers of distortion and surrendering it into the violet flame. Inviting in a new experience with Mother, Father, God. Inviting in a new experience with your inner child. With your divine feminine and your divine masculine. Calling in your inner child and showing them the adult aspect of yourself, and explaining to them that you are going to reparent them. And who better to reparent them than you? Show them that you're going to keep them safe and contained, and you're going to listen to them. You're always going to give them choices. You're not going to force them. And together you are going to re-identify what home means, what love and connection is, what commitment is, what being a mother, father is. because you're going to have this experience with them. And be present with that child until that child feels safe enough to surrender into you. And placing that inner child into your root. And for the next week, consciously ask your inner child before you just make decisions. Go to your inner child every single day and ask it what it wants to do, invite it to play. And then the adult aspect of you provide containment for that to take place. So whether it's, I want to paint, then you allow that aspect of your consciousness to come forward to have that experience, and the parent part of you goes to the store to get the paint and set up the space, and then invite the inner child to come in and paint and play, and then the adult aspect of you to see whatever it is that the child creates and to praise that child, to be its biggest fan, its cheerleader. Giving yourself all of those needs that you needed in childhood, and stop trying to go to the hardware store for milk, trying to get your parents or your partners to meet needs or play roles that you're perpetuating from your mother and father or your brothers and sisters. Allow that all to be surrendered today. And I just saw this brilliant light come into all of you through your crowns and through, it's like a beautiful cross, and it just lit you guys up. And Jesus and I are just inviting you to go over to this beautiful sacred water, where together we are, with your permission, going to rebirth you. And we are both taking a side of you, placing you into the water, and lifting you up, and placing a beautiful, warm, soft robe around you. And we're filling you with so much love. And light. And Jesus is anointing your brow, activating your knowing of truth. And so it is. And then whenever you're ready, I invite you to see that portal opening up again, as you are bringing all of this healing and integration with you through this portal. Down the pathway lined with trees. And coming back into the room where you are. And gently opening your eyes. and seeing this beautiful ball of light coming in through your crown and your third eye and your throat and your heart and your solar and your sacral and your root and down your legs, and placing it at the bottoms of your feet like a magnet that keeps you in your body. And then taking your crystalline cords and plugging them into the center of the earth so that you are connected and plugged into Mother Gaia at all times, feeling the interconnectedness with all that we are. And that beautiful golden light that is always coming down into your crown, connecting you to Source. Coming back, stretching in, allowing for yourself to give yourself 7 days to integrate and wake up to all the beautiful work that we've done here today. And I invite you all to really listen to what your inner child needs. And if anybody would like to share what they experienced or anything, I would love to hear. Hi, everyone. Your inner child wants to color with crayons. Okay, so go do that. And also, it came up with my clients earlier. There's this part of our inner child that like is afraid to even color. Like being taught to like color in the lines and like do it right. And so I have this exercise that it's interesting. It's actually being stored in the shoulder right here, on the masculine side. So yeah, just like needing to do everything perfect. Oof. Okay, so let's just surrender that. And so I have this exercise of like inviting my clients to put tarps down in a room and like, creating a space to make a mess and getting a canvas and paint of your choice and just like going crazy, just like literally just like going crazy and like throwing paint all over the canvas, making a total mess until you feel like like you've made enough mess. And then if you want to paint or draw or whatever, but allow it to come from this place of like, I don't need to do anything perfect. I don't need to stay in the lines. Allow yourself to get messy, because that's where creation happens. When you allow, like I was just speaking to one of my friends that Jesus invited me to collaborate with, and I was explaining to her what visions he was giving me of the work that we can do together. And then she said, yes, I can also offer full body energetic orgasms. And I was just like, yes, if Jesus has sent me to you for full body orgasms, let's just do that right now. So there is a need for us to allow ourselves to, not be so stiff, and to allow that energy to move through your body. When it gets like stuck, like it's like our, I'm seeing it like light, like laser beams coming out of our hands and our eyes, and it just like creates like chaos when it's not like able to flow in harmony. So, does anybody want to share what they experienced from the meditation or anything? What you saw? Sharing your experience helps others. No one? One day you guys will want to share. Okay, well, if you guys want to share later, you guys can always leave a comment below this video, and definitely share this out if you guys benefited from it, and if you are feeling like you are connected to the Sisterhood of the Rose, or you don't even have to be a female to be connected to this energy. No, you don't at all. I mean, but if you're feeling that call within you, definitely come and join me. You don't have to be here in person in Sedona. It's mostly going to be for us to gather online, and it's so needed for us to harmonize in this energy that we are here. Like, we're all connected regardless. And so, as the Sisterhood of the Rose, you are connected to the Divine Mother, the Holy Spirit. And we are here to anchor the presence of the Mother's love. And so it's important for us to start gathering. And for one, like Jesus is just, he says it's important for them to learn how to be devoted students as Mary Magdalene was, so that they can become the master that is waiting to be birthed inside of them. But you can't get there unless you learn how to be the student. And so that comes by us doing work like this, and seeing the parts of us that resist even learning from another person. And so as we gather and we activate more of this remembrance, we harmonize our frequencies, it allows for us to be this unified, beautiful field of consciousness that is anchoring this vibration of the Mother's love wherever we are. And so that means that you can be sitting in your house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't know why that's coming to my brain right now, but you're sending out a frequency that's reverberating through the cosmos, and you're anchoring that presence of the Mother's love, and you don't even have to leave your house. But when we're all doing our separate things and we are so disconnected and we don't know what the hell's going on the planet, and we're feeling like all of our rights are being taken away and everything's against us and we don't feel safe like this, what better time for us to gather and start to remember the truth of who we are, because our safety lies in knowing the truth of who we are. And you all have your roles and your missions and purposes in walking that presence out. And that, if you're not sure what that is, if you're not walking in that presence now, it's going to unfold to you when we all gather. And so I would invite you guys to join me for the 3-day devotional weekend. Even if you can't join in person, it's going to be recorded, so there will be a replay. And the activation and initiations are like harmonizing our frequencies, and it attunes you to a level of consciousness that has been not fully online yet. So if you guys are interested in that, go to the community tab and you'll see a link, and use the promo code earlybird until the 7th in the morning, like at midnight or whatever, and you'll get $200 off. So I hope to see you all there, and join me again next week for Divine Mother Healing Temple Tuesdays. Bye, guys.